that we are. We are today updating on Tuesday, October 20th, 2020. It's currently 8:30 in the morning, and today is a day of no hospital in a week where every other day requires a hospital visit. So I'm feeling good about that. I get to stay home today, and but there's stuff to do today, so that'll be. But I get to concentrate on things that I'd like to get done. So that's what I'm doing today. So what happened yesterday is that I was going to the nursing clinic to get my tube insertion area looked at, and I was hoping that it was one of the two first nurses that I had originally seen during my first two visits to the nursing clinic. And because I had made an assumption that it was one of the two of them, because I have this card. When I first went in and I guess did an intake with them, they gave me a card and it only had their two names on it. So it's been sort of quite surprising that every time I've gone in now, I've gone in 4 times, and there's been 4 different people that I've seen. So I don't know what is necessarily going on there, but the nurse that I saw yesterday, she told me her name, and I've kind of forgotten. I told her what had happened the following Thursday, where the nurse on that last week had applied something or had cleaned the wound, that it was really painful, and that I had asked her whether or not it'd be okay for me to be able to change my own gauze, and that I was told that it was okay, and was given supplies to be able to do so, but that it's been hurting, that it's been a painful few days as a result of I don't know if it was that cleansing solution, or if that turned, I don't know what it was, but it was just a painful few days from last Thursday. And I was just talking to this nurse yesterday about it, and she had said, okay, well, it sounds like she had used to clean your wound the last time you were here. She didn't note it in your chart, so I can't say what it is exactly that she had used, but maybe from now on you should let people know that they should only use acetic acid. I think that's what it is. I have a picture of it, so I will know for the next time, or anytime I go in, if there is somebody new, for me to say, please use acetic acid instead of whatever else that they might use to disinfect the area. And she cleaned it and put the silver seal on it, which the other nurse I know didn't do, and then dressed it, and I was on my way. And the nurse yesterday had recommended that I don't change the dressing on my own, because that just creates more of an opportunity to introduce infections. Whereas I was thinking, like, if I had a soaked dressing and it was hurting, and if I didn't to replace that would be a risk of infection too. But she was saying if it was soaked, just come in, just make an appointment and come in and get it changed. Okay. So that was good. And she confirmed that there wasn't any sign of infection or irritation or anything like that in the insertion site. So that was a relief. So that's one thing that I was a worry off of my mind, because it was just something that was constantly sort of like something that I was thinking about since Thursday. It's like, why is this painful? Why? And because pain isn't pain a signal of something off, something that needs attention. And so it was good to get this nurse yesterday, her feedback on the fact that the wound looked fine, or the insertion point looked fine, and that there didn't appear to be any inflammation or anything like that. And it's been largely comfortable for me for since yesterday. So it's one less thing that I have been worried about. My main worry this week is about tomorrow's appointment with the oncology folks, where they take my blood and to see what my bilirubin number is, and based on where that is, what will happen, whether I start chemo or not on Friday. So I am nervous about chemo. I am very nervous about chemo. I mentioned in a previous video that I identify as a highly sensitive person, and that ranges in a lot of different ways. So that it means a lot. It means that it impacts how I experience the world in a lot of different ways. One specific way is because the idea of being highly sensitive is that one who is highly sensitive would have a more sensitized nervous system, which means that the nervous system reacts just more quickly to things. So somebody who might hear a loud noise might not react, or the nervous system may not react so quickly or sensitively. Whereas for me, noises, sensations, thoughts, feelings, like watching TV and things like that. I mean, I can go on kind of forever about like how I think my sensitivity impacts the way that I experience things. And so I mention all of that because in relation to, let's just even say this like tube insertion site thing, it's entirely possible that the way in which I experience pain just might be dialed up a little bit more than somebody who may not be highly sensitive or have a more sensitized nervous system. So knowing that about myself, I worry that something that most people might say, so the stats is that somewhere between 20 and 30% of the population has this more sensitized nervous system. So the idea is that, if you're dealing with the majority, which is like 70 to 80% of people, and they might say it's like, wow, that wasn't painful, or that wasn't too bad, or whatever, doesn't necessarily mean that would be the same experience that I'll have. So one of the things that I have been trying to manage some kind of balance around is not reading too much about people's experiences when it comes to chemo, and the specific chemo that I will be receiving, which is long something or other, floral something, which has been shortened to FU5. So I will be receiving FU5 as a chemo treatment. And I've been given sort of some information about what to expect, the side effects of, because it's a combination of different medications, and each medication has its side effects. So I've been given sort of like this information about all of that. I haven't read through all of that yet. I just feel like it's when it happens, and I'll know more about it then, like regardless of whether I know about it right now or not. Is it going to make a huge difference for me? It'll just give me more things to think about. So I've just been delaying kind of thinking about all of that, since there's other things to think about and to do right now. But it's something that I am thinking about, so it may be helpful for me to read it. But anyway, that being said, I do have some literature about it. When I had spoken to my oncologist, Dr. Alamova, she had said that it's not really the chemo that's painful. It's actually what the cancer does within the body that's painful, because it's a mass and it pushes onto nerves and things like that. Maybe it's not the chemo. Maybe it's the side effects that are painful. I don't know. All I know right now, and I think the things that I'm most nervous about is, the side effects of chemo, what they're going to be, and two, like, what is my quality of life going to be? Particularly, there's two things that happen with this chemo treatment. One is that I go into the hospital and I sit for 2 hours while I receive the medication, the first set of medication. And then what they do is there's some kind of a vial or a bottle. I've heard people call it a bottle. I've heard some people call it a vial that is going to be attached to me for 2 days. And that is going to deliver the medication over 2 days. So the question is that I have, and I guess the only way that I'll really be able to answer it at the end of the day, is how that is going to impact my quality of life. I mean, there's the larger question of like, what is the chemo in general going to do to me, and how I'm going to feel, and like sort of general side effects and all those kinds of things. But my larger question is to have some kind of a bottle that's attached to me for 2 days, more like 3.5 days, because I go in on Friday, and it gets removed on Monday. So, you know, what is that going to mean for my weekend? For my quality of life on the weekend? And this whole point in doing the chemo is to hopefully shrink the think shrink is the thing that my friend Akiko and I were talking about in relation to chemo. What we're thinking about and needing to have happen, would love to have happen, is for the mass to shrink. And if it shrinks, that means it prolongs, and it also prolongs my quality of life, prolongs my quality of life, because it means that I'm not going to have as much pain, right? If it's not shrinking, if it's shrinking, it's not pushing on things, etc. So that is going to help my prognosis in terms of how long I'm going to be around. So think shrink is an important thing. So, but like, what is that going to be like? You know, like, is it going to be uncomfortable for me to sleep? Is it going to be like, if I move, it's going to hurt? I don't know. So that's the thing that I'm nervous about, because I just don't know yet. And sometimes my biggest enemy is knowing enough information and not knowing what that's going to be like for me. And I get sort of like psyched up as a result of that. Because at the end of the day, until I'm experiencing it, there's no way for me to know what it's going to be like for me. So this is a big week. It's a big week from that standpoint. It's a big week also, as I was like talking to a couple people yesterday. And again, like, just so incredibly thankful to have people in my life that I can talk to about these things that I am worried about or I'm thinking about. And you know, it's a very incredibly challenging week, because I'm having conversations with people. I had a conversation with my mom yesterday about like how I'm starting chemo. And I think I might have mentioned in the past that like my mom and I really have a really great relationship. Like, we talk all the time. And it was really hard for me to tell her that I'm sick. It was really hard for me to tell her that it was the kind of sick that we couldn't get better. And and I know that it's so much for her. And I just wanted her to like, she knew that I was doing the bile thing. And I don't know how much she understood about like how the bile thing needed to happen so that I could start chemo. I think I explained that. So what I wanted to make sure to tell her is that this week might be when I start the chemo, which means that like maybe, you know, like if she were to call on the weekend or, you know, a few days after that I might not have the energy, or I might kind of sound off. which I know is hard for her. It's hard for me too, clearly, but and it was a really hard conversation because she started apologizing. She was like, "I'm sorry," and I'm like, "Don't be sorry. Why are you sorry? Why are you sorry?" And she said, "Because it happened. It didn't happen to me. It happened to you." It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. And she said, "We're the same. Like, like you came from me. We're the same body, but it happened to you and not me." And it's hard, right? I mean, like in these kinds of conversations, all I can say to her is just like, "I love you so much. I need you to take care of yourself, and I need, for you to be good, because it's I don't think it's the right time right now for her to come over from Japan. She's in Japan." And even if we were to start that process right now, like it's just a lot of stuff that's overwhelming, and my mom to come from Japan right now would be overwhelming on a lot of different levels. Like she hasn't been back in Canada for like over 30 years potentially. Yeah, like a long time. And that in itself would be overwhelming. She would have to self-quarantine for 2 weeks. That would be overwhelming. I would be worried about, her traveling and all this kind of stuff. So the thinking is that, fingers crossed, thinking shrinkage, that there will be a time where there's going to be less restrictions around COVID, and that like my prognosis is extended, or that we have an idea that like things are working, so that that we have time to be able to do this in a less stressful way, to have her come over in a less stressful way. Right now, there is so much ridiculous paperwork, things having to go back and forth, like to come to for a visitor from Japan to come to Canada. There's all this like, and especially like if the relationship, like I'm not considered to be a dependent child, so it's like it's one step removed from essential visits. So it's so like I was just reading into it the other day. It's kind of crazy. Like, so somebody who is dating, if somebody in Canada is dating somebody in Japan, and they wanted to visit, somebody from Japan wanted to visit the person that they're dating in Japan, that is the same category of people as my mother visiting her adult daughter in Canada. Like, for some reason, like it's not essential. Spouses are, dependent children are, I forget other things, but not like adult children. Adult, like parents and adult children somehow are considered to be sort of in the same legal group as like people who are dating. And I was just like, wow, that's weird. It's so weird. I mean, there may be some other accommodations based on like my medical, situation. I don't know. I would have to talk to maybe the folks in the hospital about that, because they do have social workers and people who can maybe help. But right now, we have decided that for the time being, we will just kind of keep an eye on how I'm doing and start making decisions a little bit later on in terms of when she can come. There are also financial restrictions or financial kind of considerations in relation to all of this as well. We've been, like, my parents have been like working folks, and with not, you know, a whole lot in terms of means. And the reality is, like, what I and my husband have done is we put pretty much like all of our financial resources into our own work, thinking that we had time to be able to that we would have time to have different things happen at different times. So anyway, like it's all things that we got to sort out. And it's kind of all coming to the fore a little bit, it feels like, right now this week. And it's a lot to think about, it's a lot to feel. So yesterday I had that conversation, but I also had some conversation with some folks just to kind of talk about how I'm feeling, which helps. And I just highly recommend for anybody, honestly, anybody, regardless of like what you're going through, just to have like these solid, loving and caring relationships and folks in your life. Like, people aren't perfect, and they're not always gonna be perfectly attuned or perfectly responsive to what's going on for you, but to have people who you know who just love and care for you at times like this. And if at times like this it's crucial, there are other times where it could be so incredibly helpful too. So, you know, the one thing that I keep saying is that, like, you know, life is short. Life is short. And for me, it's going to be shorter than many other folks. But the thing that I have been fortunate to do over my time is to have people love and care for me so deeply, and I love and care for them deeply. And, you know, I really do hope that it's something that you put as a priority and forefront for yourself in your life, and the folks that you love and care for in your life as well. So, all that said, tomorrow is a big day. I have an oncology appointment. I go in, get some blood work done, see where my bilirubin number is at, and then from there, it's yes or no in terms of this Friday, and whether like I start chemo or not. And then I have a nurse's clinic appointment on Thursday, and then if it's a yes on the chemo, then chemo on Friday morning. So that's what's going on. It's getting more emotional, right? I mean, at the beginning, it was just like, I'm doing this, and I'm kind of dealing with these things. But now it's, you know, beginning to, like there are some things that I'm, thinking about, worried about, feeling about, and you know, this is all real stuff here, so I'm sharing it with you. Thank you so much if you're following along on the journey with me. I really appreciate you doing so. Love and care your way. Chef's kisses. I always say kisses, so I have to do two, right? And please love and care for those folks in your life. I'm still in the process of banking these. It's going to also be a big week from the standpoint of I do plan to start releasing these videos this week, and I'll be honest, I'm nervous about it because I've been making these videos, so it's pretty much been an audience of one and maybe a couple of other people who've seen couple of the videos. But for it to be out there for other people to see is something that I am nervous about. With that said, and have please share and subscribe. Please subscribe and share if you feel like there are other people who could support my journey here, or that they would be interested in following along with my journey. There are other ways to be able to support us, not just me, but all of the folks that, like my husband and I, like primarily my mother, but also I think like all the heart people that I have in my life. It's just, as big of a community that we can have, thinking about think shrink, but shrinkage. I believe that may also make a difference. So if you'd be so inclined, I would be so incredibly grateful. So love and care, couple of extra chef kisses your way, and that's it for right now anyway, so I'll talk to you real soon.